Malaysia is the fourth largest economic sector of Southeast Asia, which constantly perform due to the increased demand for commodities such as oil and gas, a pro-cyclical budget, and efficient infrastructure spending. Unfortunately, according to the Department of Statistics Malaysia in 2011, studies has found the unemployment rate of Malaysia has been increased from 3.2% until 3.7%. In response of worldwide pandemic COVID-19, Malaysia has been decided to lock down the country and force all types of businesses and companies to stop operating around mid-March 2020. Our aim of this project is to investigate the final year students' perception towards employment status during COVID-19 in Malaysia. We believe that this project will be able to benefit final year students by examining and elaborating the trend for unemployment and employment rate throughout this pandemic COVID-19.
Now, I'm going to talk about the problem statements of this project. For the past 4 months, people are not be able to live their life as their usual routine. This also might affect the UTP's final year students as they might face difficulties in finding their job after they graduate. A lot of companies are taking precautions by not hiring new employees as it affects the Malaysian economy. As some of the final year students are depending on the loan to pay their fees, they need to secure a permanent job for them to pay back their loan to their respective scholar. Although online interviews has been conducted and as an alternative way to get a job, but how far does the UTP's final year students are prepared for that? So, why are we doing this research? Firstly, we would want to know the UTP's final year students of awareness of the downsizing in taking new employees in Malaysia. Secondly, we would want to know the UTP's final year student concern on getting their job to pay back their loan. Lastly, we will want to know the UTP's final year students' preparedness in changing of nature from face-to-face interview to an online interview. What do we want to achieve from this project? We will want to know whether the UTP students are aware of this downsizing of companies in Malaysia. We will also like to know the UTP's final year students whether they are highly concerned about their repayment back loan. And lastly, we would want to know whether the UTP's final year students fare better in face interview or online interview. So, who will benefit from this research? Firstly, the UTP's they gain an awareness on the downsizing of the companies in Malaysia during COVID-19. Secondly, is a company that will be hiring them. Most UTP students had placed permanently in their job during their internship. Universiti Teknologi Petronas itself, UTP will be able to prove that they can produce so much more good graduates in the future. That is all for introduction. Thank you.
During Chapter 2, we have our literature review, where we have reference from 4 different articles. The first one being by Barrero, Jamila, and Stevenson, where they talked about the interconnected impact of COVID-19 on graduate students. The second article was by Udanyan, published on the 7th of April 2020, where she talked about how COVID might affect careers of research at all seniority levels and how people pursuing summer internship might be also affected and people might also postpone graduation. Our third article was by Ng, published on the 7th of May 2020, where he talked about the statistics of the jobs lost in Malaysia at different sectors of the economy. Lastly, an article by Dayanku, published on the 6th of June 2020, where they talked about jobs that will be at high demand after COVID-19, most importantly marketing, nursing, and software development. All in all, students must be prepared for financial challenges and be aware about the demand for their future work now before that it's too late.
Hello everyone, my name is Amirul Hakim bin Muhammad Zamri and I'm from Information Technology and I'll be doing the research design and methodology part. So today I would like to talk for our project's research design and method. So the aim of the project is to gather the information from UTP's final year student on how well do they know about the employment status during the COVID-19 pandemic. So here we have listed a few questions that will be asked to our respondents so that we can gather the informations that we are needed to also to support whether our hypothesis is going to be accepted or rejected. Overall, the question is just about the COVID-19 situation and how well are they aware about the employment status. Correct, yes. The method that we have chosen is only using the survey. We have decided to not use interview because of the online session classes, so it will be sort of like a hard to do on the online interview sessions and all, rather than, let's say, having a offline class like we normally do before this. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Iqbal bin Asim. I will be explaining chapter 4, which is our results and discussion section. So I will be skimming through most of these tables and just getting down to this summary. So this part is basically explaining the details of our demographic. Like, for instance, 42% of our respondents are male, while 58% of our respondents are female, and 96% of our respondents, the majority, are aged between 24 and 28 years old. We have also captured their programs of study, which we have found to be varying. So on to the findings and discussion section. We have ordered everything based on which research objective or hypothesis they correspond to. So on the first part, we have to study UTP final year students' awareness on the current issue of downsizing in companies in Malaysia. And for this part, we have found that 96% of students are aware of the downsizing that is happening in Malaysia. 83% of respondents are worried about their career life after graduation, and 13% of respondents are not so sure about it. 4% of students are not worried at all. Moving on to RO2 now, we can see that yes, students are aware and are worried about their difficulty to pay their study loans due to low employment opportunities during COVID-19. So as we can see from the pie chart, 77% of the students are definitely worried about their ability to pay back the study loans. And on to RO3, which is to examine UTP's final year students' preparedness in facing the changing nature of interview sessions from face-to-face to online. And as we can see from the results, 27% of students are fully prepared to face the changes, while 40% of the students are slightly prepared. 27% of the respondents are neutral, and 6% of the respondents are less prepared about the changes. And overall, most of the students are either very prepared or somewhat prepared for the change from face-to-face interviews to online interviews. So since we have asked them to rate on a Likert scale of 1 to 5, their preparedness of the change from face-to-face interviews to online interviews, we can calculate the mean, and we have received it. It is 3.9. There are 3 limitations faced during the study. The first limitation is basically close-ended questions which are not sufficient enough to justify the hypothesis. This will then lead to not being able to count the mean score, and having a mean score will determine whether the hypothesis is accepted or rejected. But with only the yes or no questions providing the percentage, it does not include any mean score to support it. Secondly, the survey questions are aimed for UTP final year students. By doing that, the amount of respondents will be limited as compared to spreading the survey to final year students from all universities around Malaysia. That would mean that our views are only limited to UTP, and it doesn't represent most of the final year students who are affected overall by the COVID-19 pandemic. Lastly, the survey has not been promoted on various platforms. This survey has been promoted and spread only via WhatsApp, so the respondents that filled up the survey are quite limited as compared to promoting it on various platforms. Alright, that will be all for my section. Thank you.
In conclusion, the survey had collected 65 responses, but only 52 responses were from the final year students. The research showed that all of the 3 hypotheses that have been mentioned before are all accepted. Next, contributions can be made to the university and the students. UTP can do a mock-up online interview for the final year students to help them getting prepared for any online interview during this pandemic. The Ministry of Higher Education should do a collaboration video with PTPTN providing the students on how they can manage their money during this pandemic, especially when they need to pay back their student loan. This will give the students a clear idea on how they can manage their money, or is there any other alternatives for them to pay back their student loans. From the research that has been conducted, there are a few changes that can be improved, such as provide more clues-added questions, have a broader scope that focuses on final year students from other universities in Malaysia as well. And lastly, give out the service on different social media platforms other than just one platform.